I always tell students when they're picking their A-levels, they should pick something that they love, but they should also pick something that's going to open a lot of doors for them. And chemistry A-level is one of the best A-levels to do. And it's such a well-respected A-level. So having even just one science as part of your qualifications or repertoire is going to open a lot of doors for you. And there are just so many jobs and opportunities within the STEM field and so many different ways in. Like, you don't have to do GCSEs and A-levels. You could go and do an apprenticeship. And it's just, there's so many jobs, so many opportunities, and actually so many spaces as well. These jobs still need filling. We still need engineers. We still need lots of doctors. We need research and development chemists. It's like there's so much, there's something to suit everybody in STEM.
My guest this week is Carrie Ann Booth, who is an award-winning science edutainer. Carrie has a bachelor's in biochemistry and science communication from Royal Holloway, which is part of the University of London. And currently she is a secondary sciences teacher, as well as a science edutainer with the Science Booth. And she is also an online tutor as part of the £2 tuition hub, teaching from primary science right up to GCSE. Carrie Ann, welcome to STEM with Mr. N.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. So can we just start off talking a bit about the Science Booth? What is a science edutainer?
Okay, so a science edutainer gets to do all the fun science stuff. So all the exciting demonstrations, the fire, the explosions, the slime, without what I would say is the less exciting bit of teaching. So I'm not a big fan of the marking, the exams, and necessarily being locked into a classroom. So the Science Booth provides scientific entertainment with a sneaky little bit of education for things like birthday parties, school assemblies, workshops for groups like brownies, youth groups, scouts, and all different things like that. So it's kind of the best bits of science without all the boring textbook stuff.
And what region do you operate in currently?
So it's just me at the moment and one other person, scientist Joe, and we cover pretty much the whole of Cumbria and southwest Scotland, but we're hoping to grow and reach new areas soon.
And there we go. People can then look out for that, the Science Booth coming to an area near them. And
Yes.
how long's the Science Booth been going, and why did you decide to start the Science Booth?
The Science Booth is now 6 years old, and the main reason I started it is I had a little girl, and when I was planning her birthday party, I kind of got a bit bogged down with all the princesses and magicians, and it just felt like there wasn't very much choice for the children who didn't want a princess or didn't want a superhero or anything like that, or a magician. I thought, there's plenty of children out there who love science and plenty of grown-ups too. Why not have explosions and slime at your birthday party? So that's how it started. It was a science birthday party entertainment sort of company, and it's just grown from there, really.
And I also mentioned in the introduction that currently you're a secondary sciences teacher and you did a degree in biochemistry. What is biochemistry?
Oh, it's the best bit. Actually, someone once said to me, you're neither a biologist or a chemist, you're half rice, half chips. But what exactly is it? It's the chemistry of biology. So it's all the small stuff, all the chemistry, all the molecules, all the atoms, but all to do with biology and cells and bacteria. So think things like DNA, cellular processes, microbiology. So biology, but as small as you can go.
And in that degree, there was also science communication. So what's involved in that aspect of the qualification?
That was probably the main reason why I chose that degree. And at the time of doing my degree, there are only 2 universities in the country offering that. So what that does is, alongside doing the science degree, I was able to learn how to present science to non-scientists, just to everyday normal people who don't have a science background. So we got to do really exciting stuff like make documentaries, news programs, magazines, radio programs. So yeah, it's about communicating science to just your normal everyday public person, and I think just making it accessible and understandable to everyone. And I think, as we've seen in recent years, the general public understanding science is actually really important for us to understand the world around us and what's going on.
And I suppose in that answer, as part of probably the answer to this question, but you obviously did the biochemistry and then followed it into teaching rather than into research or further in academia. Why did you decide to go into secondary teaching?
Well, I always wanted to be a science journalist or a science teacher. All my work experience was for journalism. I worked at local newspapers, I did work placements at magazines, and kind of my heart was set on that. But the more I did journalism, the more I realised it was quite a lonely job and you spend quite a lot of time working on your own. And when I left university, I still was toying between journalism or teaching. And my first job out of university was working at an outdoor education centre where I got to do crazy things like quad biking, climbing, archery, but then I also got to do outdoor science and geography as well. So field studies like going in rivers, collecting bugs, or going looking at rocks and fossils on the beach. And I think those 2 summers or those 2 years working with children kind of cemented the idea that I love science, but actually working with children is way more exciting than either working on your own or working with quite boring adults.
I agree. Working with children is great when you're doing the science, and you can really see that spark in them when you do something that fascinates them, which is a good lead into my next question of what first got you interested in STEM?
I just questioning the world around me, trying to find things out. So I remember summers going out collecting ants and making my own little ant farms. I remember wandering around the house, wondering why saucepans were made out of metal and things like that. So I think most children have that like innate general curiosity and questioning the world around them. It wasn't until secondary school though that I really kind of got a hook on science. And I think it was down to my teachers. There was one teacher in particular, Mr. Pittman, who was my chemistry teacher. And I like to think that I'm a little bit like him now, that he still had that child inside him. And every time we did a chemistry demonstration, he'd be just as excited as us. And I think it was his excitement and enjoyment of doing chemistry that kind of spurred me on to do it a little bit as well. So yeah, definitely natural curiosity and my own teachers at school.
And I know as well, because we know each other a bit and things that you've posted online, that you had a bit of a difficult background going through your education. Do you mind sharing a bit about that and how science helped you out of that?
Well, I was from not a very well off background. So I lived with just my dad when I was younger, and we never really had any money, to the point where sometimes the gas and the electricity would run out at home, or we didn't have food in the cupboards, and it was always a struggle. It was never easy at home. And so I was the kid who would be at school as much as possible. I joined every after school club. I was in the choir, I was in all the sports teams. I basically didn't want to go home because I knew it was going to be cold and miserable and not a very nice place to be. So I kind of threw myself into education. And for me, I wanted to get out of this kind of generational poverty cycle that I appeared to be stuck in. Like, no one in my family had been to university, no one in my family had any money. And I just thought, God, there's no end to this. But I realized that actually education was going to be my way out. So once I'd found my passion for science, I worked hard at my GCSEs, worked hard at my A levels. So I did chemistry and biology at A level. And then my escape route was I need to get to university. And once I got to university, I sort of never looked back. And so getting my degree, becoming a teacher kind of gave me the financial security. And it was only 2 or 3 years ago that we've managed to buy our first house. So, you know, it's taken almost a lifetime to escape poverty, but there's no way I would have escaped that poverty unless it was for my science education and becoming a teacher. So I'll be forever grateful to getting stuck into science education and learning, because it was definitely like my passport away out of poverty.
And that is something that a lot of research has shown as well, that STEM careers are a really good way to break out of that because of the money that's available in STEM careers. So do you now feel, having come from that background, that part of you wants to push that and inspire other people to follow in the same sort of direction?
Yeah, 100%. And obviously being female, it's like a big thing for getting more girls into STEM subjects as well, especially engineering and maths. And I think you know, I always tell students when they're picking their A levels, they should pick something that they love, but they should also pick something that's going to open a lot of doors for them. And chemistry A level is one of the best A levels to do, and it's such a well-respected A level. So having even just one science as part of your qualifications or repertoire is going to open a lot of doors for you. And there are just so many jobs and opportunities within the STEM field, and so many different ways in. Like, you don't have to do GCSEs and A levels, you could go and do an apprenticeship, and it's just, there's so many jobs, so many opportunities, and actually so many spaces as well. These jobs still need filling. We still need engineers, we still need lots of doctors, we need research and development chemists. It's like there's so much, there's something to suit everybody in STEM, definitely.
And how do you think we can get more girls interested in STEM fields? From people I've spoken to, I understand like the biological sciences, there's a lot of females in, but in other things like engineering, as you mentioned, there's not. Chemistry is one I'm not sure about, what
Yeah.
the balance is like there. But what do you think we can do to try and get more girls interested in STEM?
Well, I think we just need more role models out there. And there's, you know, I know quite a lot of women in STEM, but, you know, they often hide behind their careers or they hide behind their computers. And I think it's just getting the faces out there. You're absolutely right, though. Biology, if you just look at A-level choices, biology is usually overpopulated with girls. And then you go into the chemistry class, there's even less. You go into the physics class and there's even less again. So I think it's making sure that these subjects seem accessible to girls from a really young age, because if you're in like an 11 to 18 school or an 11 to 18 environment, you see that it's mainly boys in that physics classroom, it's mainly boys in the maths classroom. So I think it's just making sure that girls know that it's like, it's an okay place to be, that girls are welcome. And I think just getting more women sort of on the front line talking about their jobs, like the videos that you make are excellent because you're getting people out there representing their subjects or their industries, and, you know, getting the women out there as well talking about it, but just supporting them. There's loads of schemes at the moment to support women and other minority groups into STEM, and I just think we need to keep pushing that, and we need to keep championing anybody who's doing that, and also not to like squash the men out of the way, but, you know, the men can help as well. What you do is brilliant because you're talking about it, so talking about it more and making it an option. And I think just even from primary school, you know, there was that study that they did ages ago where they asked children to draw a scientist, and years ago everybody used to draw men, but now it's becoming different. And like my little girl, if she's asked to draw a scientist, she draws me, so that's excellent. So more women on the front line and more women talking about STEM in like a really positive way.
And that's why it's great having yourself on, to be able to talk about it and be one of those faces out there. And I know you do a lot on social media as well, trying to get people together and promote females in STEM. So did you have any STEM heroes?
Well, I think I've already mentioned him. It was my chemistry teacher at secondary school, and I don't think I really had any female STEM heroes until I got to university, where some of my lecturers at university were absolutely out of this world. And I think it was only when I got to university that I started to see women who were like at the forefront of the research and the education, and that was really good. But yeah, Mr. Pittman at GCSE, and then definitely some of the female lecturers once I got to university. But it's only now that actually I'm starting to see more and more heroes everywhere I go, because I've set up the group, the STEAM Educators staff room, where lots of STEAM educators, including yourself, come together. And I'm meeting so many wonderful women in there. Like, we've got Lara from Theatre of Science, who's doing absolutely bags for STEM and for women. She's an awesome physicist. I've got Laura Watkins in the group. She's PhD scientist, and she's really heavily involved with girl guiding as well. And that's another route that I go down. So I do girl guiding with my daughter. She's a brownie at the moment, and anytime science is needed, like, I'll happily go and do stuff for girl guiding. So I think getting roots into those girl only groups are really important as well, because there aren't many girl only groups nowadays, because, you know, it's all about equal opportunities. However, it's nice for girls to have that safe space where they feel like they can be themselves, and I think it's good that girl guiding still exists, and that is a really good place to promote STEM for women and girls.
And there was a really interesting thing that you said in there where you didn't really see any notable females until you went to university. But research has shown that children are picking their careers as young as 7, based on a survey between 7 and 11-year-olds. So I also think it's great that yourself and these other women that you've just mentioned are in with the younger groups, showing them those sort of female role models in STEM. Have you seen any shift, do you think, in your time in secondary school with girls and more uptake in some of the other subjects, or is it still sitting at levels that it had been for a long time?
No, I think it is slowly changing. It's not changing quickly, and I can't give you any exact numbers, but I've been teaching for about 17 years now, and most of my teaching career has been chemistry. And I've had chemistry classes with no girls in whatsoever when I first started teaching, and there's definitely more and more in there now. But yeah, it's changing, but it's changing very slowly, so it's definitely still needs working on.
Well, that's good that at least it is going in the right direction, even if it is taking time. But again, that's where people like yourself come in and being able to be that face and promote the chemistry side of things to these young girls that are coming through. And I believe you've also been nominated for a couple of awards as a female lead within STEAM. How does that make you feel that you're now actually getting that recognition as well as
Oh,
a leader?
yeah, that's like amazing. So I've got through to the UK. I don't know if it's a UK final, but at the UK final, I think, for the Globant Women That Lead Award. So I should hear about that this month actually. But just to even be nominated, like I have no idea who nominated me. I've no idea how many votes I got, but just to be recognised as a woman that's leading and a woman that's supporting other women and encouraging girls into these STEM and STEAM fields is really nice. Now, none of us really go into teaching for recognition and awards, but getting recognition, getting awards, getting in the press, getting in the media is kind of what gets your message out there. So if I can help do that by winning awards, then that'll be amazing. And if that gives me a platform to speak on and a platform from where I can help girls get into science, then that's amazing.
So this is being recorded in August. So when you hear about the award, I'll be able to put an update in the description because obviously we don't know just now what the results are. But right now, I've got my fingers crossed for you.
Yep.
And I also mentioned in the start that you're an award-winning science edutainer. And we spoke about the science booth, but what award was it that you got for the science booth?
It's called the Points of Light Award, and it was from Downing Street. And I'd never even heard about it, but I think it was kind of kicked off through COVID, and they were giving out lots of awards for like loads of different things, but people who were generally helping the public get through like the tough times of COVID. So my Points of Light award, which you can still see online now, was for the free science lessons that I provided kind of throughout the COVID period, but beyond as well. So I've got a little group called Easy to Do Science for like 5 to 11-year-olds, and that's where I put in loads of free science stuff, and it's all the fun, messy stuff. There's no boring stuff. It's about getting your hands dirty, getting messy, and exploring the world around you. But what it has got as well is it's got all the science explanation in for any of the grown-ups, because your child might like science, but it doesn't mean that you do, and it doesn't mean that you know all the answers. So it's got all the science explanations in easy to understand language as well. So that's what my Points of Light award was for, and I was absolutely over the moon with that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a brilliant achievement. And I love the fact there that you said you put in the experiments and the explanation, because that was a big part of why I actually started doing the videos, was I found lots of videos showing experiments and not explaining what was happening.
Yeah. They show
And
you the wow, but they don't show you the how and the why. And that's really important. Not only is the child to understand what's going on, but for the parents and the grown-ups involved, so they can explain it and like encourage their children to take it further and carry on investigating.
exactly. And I think that's brilliant that you received an award for that. So very well done. I'm not surprised that you're super proud about that. And since we've just been talking about experiments there, we're just heading towards the end now, but have you got a favourite experiment that you like to do at showcases or parties or whatever?
There's two or three that I like to sort of end my shows on. One of them is the exploding hydrogen balloon, which any good science teacher will have done. But basically filling a balloon with hydrogen gas and igniting that. But the really interesting thing is not only do you get that chemical reaction giving out the heat, the light, and the sound as a big explosion, you get the end product as well. So when you have a look at the balloon at the end, it's all covered in condensation. It's like a really cool way to make water. I also love doing the whoosh bottle experiment as well. It's a big polycarbonate bottle. You fill it, well, you don't fill it, you put in some methanol, and then you fill it with the methanol gas, and then you ignite that, and it's a bit like a rocket flame coming out at the end of it. So that's really good. But yeah, anything to do with fire and explosions, I'm kind of all over it. So yeah, when I was younger, I used to get in trouble for trying to make my own explosions or set fire to things. And I always joke and tell people that the only reason I became a chemistry teacher is so I could set fire to things without getting into trouble.
Well, that's a good reason to become a teacher. Although the woman that got me interested in science, she was a secondary chemistry teacher, or into the STEM thing when I was doing my teaching qualifications. She set fire to one of our classrooms and blew the windows out of another one of our classrooms. So,
She sounds like a legend.
oh, she's an incredible woman. But yeah, so you can't always do it safely when you get into the chemistry teaching, but I
No.
suppose it's better than running about doing it in your house.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my house does have a few stains on the ceiling, the floor. My kitchen's a bit of a chemistry lab, so yeah, but it's kind of an occupational hazard. But yeah, it's fine.
It is indeed. So, to finish up, Carrie Ann, as I've mentioned a few times in this, you are appearing across social media in different places. Can you just tell everyone where they can find you online?
Yep, the best place to find me hanging out is Facebook, so you can find me at the Science Booth on Facebook. We've got the group Easy to Do Science at Home for 5 to 11-year-olds. I'm on TikTok as well as the Science Booth, and I'm on Instagram. TikTok's probably a good place to go if you want to see some cool little science videos as well, but I'll be happy to welcome anyone along to come and watch those.